First off, I just want to say to any HUMBL shareholders, I know it's been a rough year, but I do think much better times are ahead with this stock. I haven't sold a single share of HUMBL, even when I was up over 200% at one point. HUMBL is a company that I truly believe in that much. And something that I've actually noticed with HUMBL is that it can be quite a divisive stock. For the most part, I see nothing but overwhelming support for HUMBL. However, there is still a small percentage of people that seem to think that it is a worthless scam that is going to $0. However, I don't think this is the case at all. In fact, I don't really see a case for HUMBL being a scam whatsoever. Yes, HUMBL is still what I'd consider a riskier stock. However, I believe that HUMBL is 100% a legitimate company with a huge amount of potential in the future. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I'm gonna prove it to you. So if you personally have any doubts, fears, or concerns with HUMBL, I urge you to keep listening, as I think this is a very important and crucial video when it comes to HUMBL. Now, even though HUMBL saw some bullish activity on November 19th, the yearly chart of HUMBL still shows a downtrending pattern. But regardless, I'd like to go over what the cause of this recent bullish spike was, and if it really means that more bullish activity is ahead for HUMBL in 2022. But before I get into the juicy HUMBL updates, I just want to thank you guys for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. And look, I can see in my analytics, and it looks like 90% of you returning to my content aren't subscribed. So please, if you think my content sucks, don't subscribe. But if you find yourself continually coming back to my channel, just hit the subscribe button already, if for anything, so that you guys can grow with my channel and we can all get rich together. So with that, let's get into the update. HUMBL Inc. Major reversal as powerful advisor rejoins the team and looks to uplist to major exchange. And this right here is the exact reason why HUMBL saw those bullish moves around November 19th. HUMBL announced it has once again retained the consulting services of George Sharp as a capital markets advisor. So basically, Mr. Sharp will help HUMBL through an application with OTC markets for an advancement to the OTCQB tier, and then towards an application to the NASDAQ stock market. So to actually reach these milestones, what HUMBL will also have to do is file audited financials with the SEC, beginning with the year-end statement for 2021. And if you're curious what the OTCQB tier is, let me explain it real quick, so you can have a better understanding of what's going on here. When smaller companies wish to become publicly traded, a lot start out on the OTC markets, or the over-the-counter markets, which is where a lot of small cap penny stocks start out. And with the OTC markets, there are 3 tiers: pink sheets, OTCQB, and lastly OTCQX. And each of these tiers is separated based on perceived risk levels, with pink sheet stocks being the most risky and least regulated, while OTCQX is the most regulated and carries the least perceived risk out of the 3 tiers. And with the one that HUMBL is seeking to join, OTCQB, this tier is also called the venture market. It's the middle tier of the over-the-counter market for US stocks. It was created in 2010 and consists mainly of early stage and developing US and international companies that aren't able to qualify for the OTCQX, but are not as speculative as the lower tier pink sheets. Furthermore, companies can jump from the OTC market to a standard exchange, like the NASDAQ, as long as they meet the listing and regulatory requirements. And exchanges like the NASDAQ must prove a company's application to the list, which should be accompanied by financial statements. And this is honestly huge news for HUMBL in my opinion, because it just means that HUMBL is moving one step closer to becoming listed on the NASDAQ. Now, that's not to say that fraudulent companies can't make it to the NASDAQ. No. However, where the case for HUMBL being a fraudulent company really starts to break down is the fact that HUMBL is bringing aboard a very well-known and respected guy in the world of low-cap market stocks named George Sharp, who draws his experience as a litigant, investigator, and forensic researcher. Simply put, George Sharp consults with attorneys and publicly traded companies in order to protect investors and bring value to shareholders. And get this, one of the biggest things that Mr. Sharp is known for is his efforts to combat microcap stock fraud. And I'm not making this up. If you look at Mr. Sharp's track record, you can literally see a list of the fraudulent pump and dump schemes that his team has sued. Mr. Sharp is a man that has the very best interest when it comes to both investors and early companies. He fights fraud while also helping out legitimate companies so that they can become uplisted to major stock exchanges. And Mr. Sharp is also on the management team for several public companies, including Forwardly, and is someone known for doing the right thing. Okay, so if you'll recall, one of the biggest runners of early 2021 was HUMBL, when the stock skyrocketed shortly after the name and ticker symbol change from TSNP. And George Sharp is, for lack of a better word, a stock wizard, with anything he touched seemingly turning to gold, with HUMBL being the biggest runner of them all, going from sub-pennies per share to multiple dollars, which created several thousands of percentage gains for those early investors. So if you're one of the very few lucky ones who got into HUMBL when it was trading at 0.003 cents a share and held for that initial crazy bull run, you can thank George Sharp for shepherding the whole deal to initially help HUMBL go public. And listen to what HUMBL's CEO, Brian Foote, had to say about this. Once we agreed that an uplist of the company's stock was in everybody's best interest, the consensus of HUMBL management was that it was important to ask George to shepherd us through this process. His microcap savvy, which we value greatly, enabled us to bring about one of the most followed reverse mergers in the OTC market's history. Now, HUMBL is prepared to take the necessary next steps to expand on that success. And lastly, in response, let's listen to what George Sharp had to say. Although I count many accomplishments among my efforts to legitimize the OTC markets, working with the management to bring HUMBL to the public was undoubtedly my crowning achievement. This is in large part due to the integrity and boundless energy of Brian Foote. I was eager to assist HUMBL move forward with its agenda, and am excited about what HUMBL as an operation has in store. So to be honest guys, this is without a doubt my favorite update that has come out of HUMBL recently. George Sharp is once again providing HUMBL with some incredibly valuable consulting services, and while this doesn't for sure guarantee HUMBL a spot on the NASDAQ, their upward movement to the mid-tiered OTCQB markets is an extremely promising indicator that they're headed in the right direction. And if HUMBL is able to make it to the NASDAQ, this will in turn enable new groups of investors to actually consider investing in HUMBL, where otherwise they may not have even considered or known about the stock. And I think right now, the best thing HUMBL investors like myself and you guys can do is be patient, and rest assured that HUMBL is not some fraudulent pump and dump scheme. I stand by my testament that HUMBL is a legitimate company, and the fact that George Sharp is now again an integral part of the team has only furthered this sentiment for me. HUMBL is an incredible company with an immovable vision of the future. With the enthusiasm and energy of Brian Foote, to the dedication and wisdom of George Sharp, this seems like a match made in heaven. And I can only see more good things coming out of this relationship. And with that, I'd honestly like to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this update, as I think it's a pretty pivotal moment for HUMBL. Anyway though, thanks for watching the video guys, and I'll catch you next time.